Paul Logan spent Thursday, December 23rd, 1993, feeling that holiday spirit. He and his 4-year-old son, Michael, spent the day getting ready for Christmas while singing Jingle Bells over and over and over. His girlfriend of 10 years and the mother of their 2 children, Pamela Hughes, listened happily as she cared for their 9-month-old daughter, Natalie. It must have been hard for Paul to pull himself away from such a picturesque day, but as he was scheduled to work a shift delivering Chinese food that evening, he had to tear himself from the festive merriment. Little did anyone know that that night would be Paul's last shift. Well, no one knew except the individuals who planned and executed an attack that would leave Paul dead, his blood seeping onto the white snow that sparkled under the light of the moon.
Well, that's quite an intro. And that's on Christmas Day.
That's the 23rd.
Okay.
His body will be discovered on Christmas Eve.
All right, we got ourselves a holiday murder.
A murder mystery.
We've got muck duck on Christmas. We're close to
Murder
it.
and mystery and merriment for all.
The 3 M's. That's going to make a good podcast. We got all 3 M's covered. Well, that sounds great, and it actually sounds like it's perfectly paired with this drink that I've picked.
Okay.
We've gone with beer this time around. We are going to have 2 holiday Christmas episodes.
Yes.
And there's a ton. There's so many different holiday drinks that you can make, but we thought, let's go with stuff that people can actually get.
Yeah.
One's pretty obvious. You'll find out on the next episode. This one is a Colorado local beer. It's probably our biggest beer company outside of Coors here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's New Belgium. New Belgium is based in Fort Collins, which is, I would say, an hour from Denver.
Due north.
45 minutes, something like that, depending on traffic. This is their limited release. I don't believe they've ever released this one before. I'm pretty sure they do one every year. It is an ale, and it's actually called Holiday Ale. I'll show the can to the camera here. Nice looking can here. It's flavors of cranberry and spice and everything nice.
Oh, perfect.
It is, I didn't even see this when I got it until today, was the higher alcohol content.
So it'll get you nice and toasty.
Yeah, this is
when it's cold outside.
7.5.
Oh, dear gosh.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. All right, here's yours.
Thank you.
Come.
I do enjoy, holiday themed beers.
Yeah.
I find them like a nice reprieve from just that beer taste.
Yeah.
So I'm actually very excited about this one.
It's probably the only times during the year that I find you asking me to grab a beer instead of wine.
It's pretty good.
Is it?
It's
smells
a
good.
little bit more bitter than I would think, like a traditional ale, but that could just be the cranberry because cranberry has almost a bitter taste. And you can definitely taste an underlying cranberry, I was going to say hue, but that's a color. Hint
I
or
think
tone.
it's okay to they use all sorts of different things to describe taste. Hue could definitely be one of them.
Yeah, not too bad.
This is, I see what you mean with the bitterness, like that bitter. It's almost the bitterness that you find in a
IPA.
That's not really. I don't know if I would call that bitter, but like a stout kind of has a little bit of a bitterness to it, or a porter has a little. And that I'm curious what it looks like. To me, it tastes like a darker beer.
It does. It definitely tastes like a darker beer. That's why when I said it was like bitter for an ale,
yeah,
I picture ales as super like bright and crisp.
Yeah.
And this is not.
It's
bright or crisp.
It's got a little bit of
full bodied.
It's full bodied, got a little darker taste to it, but that cranberry and spice is definitely there to kind of cut through all that. Maybe that's also what kind of adds to it. But either way, I will say New Belgium did a good job with this limited release holiday ale, and kudos to them. If you have New Belgium sold around you, I do suggest you go see if they've got
pick it up.
holiday ale.
Well, I'm Katie and he's Jason, and a holiday ale from New Belgium is perfectly paired with a tragic story that took place 2 days before probably one of the biggest holidays, at least celebrated in the Western world, Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Logan and Pamela Hughes were high school sweethearts. They had created a life for themselves in Blackhill, Consett, in County Durham, England. To make ends meet while providing for his family of 4, Paul had been working as a delivery driver for the Golden Flower Chinese restaurant for about 2 years. Just imagine a cold night, snow covering the ground outside, 2 days before a busy holiday. What could have been better than ordering a hot and hearty Chinese takeaway that could be delivered right to your door?
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, nothing. So Paul knew he was going to be busy that night. While out delivering other orders, a call came into the Golden Flower. A female employee took the order for barbecue, spare ribs, and chow mein. When the caller gave the location for delivery, Blue House Farm, the female employee said that she would have to have the delivery driver give them a call back to clarify directions. She was having trouble finding the address, and the person who placed the order said that that would be just fine.
What year is this?
1993.
Okay, I'm just picturing how she's looking at a map.
Yeah. And it's in England.
Yeah, a paper map.
Definitely a paper map.
Probably on the wall, and she's taking the order and looking up. It's like, where the hell is that?
So when Paul returned to the restaurant, he called the customer back. And after clarifying.
There you go.
Goodness, 7.5 and it's already like in my bloodstream. After clarifying the delivery location, Paul set out to make more deliveries, including the one to the Blue House Farm, which was only about a 5-minute drive from the Golden Flower restaurant. At around 10 p.m. that night, Paul approached the driveway to the Blue House Farm. The gate to the property was open, so Paul drove up to the residence. After parking his cream-colored Pugo car, I'm not sure how you say it.
That's probably an English car.
I'm
I
assuming.
don't know. Tiny, probably.
I'm assuming. Paul approached the front door to deliver the food. An elderly woman named Joan Brosi answered Paul's knock. But to her utter surprise, Paul tried to hand her the ordered meal. Confused, she told Paul that neither she nor her husband were expecting any Chinese food delivered that evening. Probably even more confused than she was, Paul turned and returned to his vehicle. As he drove down the driveway of the relatively remote home, Paul noticed that the gate that had been open on his drive up was now, interestingly, closed. So, most likely perplexed, if not somewhat frustrated, Paul, leaving his door open, the lights in the vehicle shining bright, got out of the safety of his car to push the gate open. Now, after about 30 minutes at the Golden Flower restaurant, the staff there began to get worried. Orders had been piling up, and Paul was yet to return. After 90 minutes, the decision was made at the restaurant that they had to stop taking orders until Paul finally returned. Across town, which in a tiny town isn't that far, the elderly couple living at the Blue House Farm noticed something interesting. The car driven by the delivery driver seemed to have stalled at the end of their driveway and remained on their property. The first call they made was to the Golden Flower Chinese restaurant to inquire as to why their delivery driver was still on the homeowner's property. Their second call was to the police. Tony, the owner of the Golden Flower restaurant, who was already worried about Paul's overdue arrival, immediately called Paul's partner, Pamela, to see if she by chance knew where the father of their 2 children was. When she said she had no idea, the situation went from curious to concerning. Pamela first called Paul's mom, Elise. After the call, Paul's father and Paul's brother, David, headed to the Golden Flower restaurant. There, the pair retrieved Tony, and the threesome headed to the last address Paul was to have gone to, the Blue House Farm. As the three concerned men approached the remote property, their worry would only have been fed at the sight of law enforcement, who had recently arrived. Then, at around 2:15 a.m., early the morning of Christmas Eve 1993, Paul Logan's body was located. It was lying on the ground about 50 yards from the vehicle. The cause of his death was blunt force trauma to his head, but the weapon or weapons that inflicted the wounds were nowhere in the vicinity. To this day, these weapons or singular weapon have never been recovered. Honestly, no one knows for sure what the weapon was that caused the wounds to Paul's head, unless the investigators do. And if that's so, they have never revealed the weapon type.
Just in case.
Yeah,
they
probably.
Get a suspect or confession.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, there were other wounds on Paul's body, but I could not find any source that specifically described what those wounds were. As the scene was further searched, it was discovered that all of the money that Paul had on his person that evening was still accounted for, eliminating robbery as the motive for the atrocious act. Which, if you're watching this delivery driver deliver food and you're somebody who needs money, you might go, yeah, it's an easy target. I'm sure people are paying him cash, especially in 1993.
Oh, yeah. He'd be carrying around a lot of cash at that time.
Yep. But none of his money was stolen.
That's crazy. So this farm, was it big?
I don't think it was super big.
Could you see where his car was from the house?
Yes. Because the homeowners looked out the window, probably before turning in, saw his lights on, and they could tell that the car was still on their property.
And were the homeowners home? I know you probably said this. Were the homeowners home when he arrived?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they told him.
Deliver food, and they're like,
they told him we didn't order anything.
We didn't order anything.
I was confused because you said when they turned in, they could see his car on the property. So I was...
No, I'm assuming that like they were ready to go to bed at some point.
Turned in for the night. Gotcha.
Yes, they turned in for the evening.
Yeah, I think the British thing is you're talking different.
I'm trying.
I've never heard you call going to bed turning in. I'm going to turn in, dear.
No, I just say payment card. Reveals my old soul. But no, I'm thinking sure when they turned in for the evening, they went to close the blinds and saw his car.
Yeah. Okay, so they claim they don't, that's what happened.
Yes, but they're an elderly couple, so I doubt they followed him down.
Yeah.
And you still have that suspiciously closed gate that was open when he arrived.
Right.
Who closed that?
Who
if it was this elderly couple just looking for some pre-Christmas excitement.
And he was 50 yards from the car
when his body was found.
So it had to have happened pretty quickly after he got back to his car.
But I definitely think he ran.
Mm-hmm. There's snow on the ground?
Snow on the ground.
Did you see anything about footprints to
They didn't say anything about footprints, no.
I'm sure he ran from somebody. And I'm sure there was noise.
You would think there was noise.
Screaming.
Especially if he had other wounds.
Before you get your head bashed in.
Okay.
I'm just...
Pause all this.
Yeah,
Keep it in mind.
I'm just getting everything in my mind of how it happened.
Because I do think you bring up some good points.
So, go on.
Now, the first order of business for the investigators was to try and determine who placed the takeaway order. It was discovered that the call was made from a phone box located at the junction of Snow Green Road and Benefield Side Road near Shortley Bridge.
And I'm sure it was red.
I just
glass windows.
The way the English
all of them are.
describe places just like baffles my mind.
Oh, they call so many things different. Did you know they call the trunk of your car
boot.
the boot? Yeah, they do a lot of different things. I think we've had this conversation on an episode too, though. So,
But for the Australian episode, I think.
yeah.
But that's why I said takeaway.
Oh,
Because we would say like a food pickup or a food order here in America.
delivery.
Or a food delivery. They call it a takeaway.
Although
A takeaway curry.
I feel like
Never
with Chinese
ever.
food, I will have to ask my parents, but I feel like that's what we called it growing up.
I've
was
literally
Chinese
never
takeaway.
heard that in the
But
great old
we never
United
called
States.
it was pizza delivery, but I swear we called Chinese food takeaway.
Well, we're going to ask them when we
Yeah.
celebrate Christmas this year. Now, that puts the phone box just 600 yards from the Golden Flower restaurant. What's particularly interesting is that the caller would have had to have waited in the phone box for the 20 minutes that it took Paul to return to the restaurant and then make the call to clarify directions, meaning the caller risked being seen that entire time. Because if you remember, they placed the order, they gave the address. The woman taking the address was like, I don't know where this is. So Paul's going to give you a call. And the guy said, sure, have him give me a call. And then he waited in the phone box for 20 minutes.
How far is the phone box from the farmhouse?
Well, from the farmhouse, 5 minutes, but from the restaurant, 600 yards.
Okay.
Now, when the Northumbria police asked the public, why would the police ask the police? They asked the public for help. A couple who had been walking in that area on the 23rd between 9:20 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. reported that they saw a man standing in that phone box, but he was not actually on the phone during the time that they passed him. This man was described as white and muscular. He was about 6 feet tall and roughly 30 years of age. He was scruffy with shoulder-length dark hair that was receding in the front. He was also reportedly wearing a black leather jacket. Next to the phone box was a parked red or orange Ford Fiesta with a driver sitting in the front seat who had a similar build to the man in the phone box. He was also wearing a leather jacket. A similar colored vehicle, a red or orange Astra van, was seen near the Blue House Farm. That's a beer burp. Just around the time Paul would have been attacked. Now, if you look up these two vehicles, one, I would say, is significantly larger than the other, but possibly they have a similar shape. And maybe in the dark, just in passing, do you think they could be the same vehicle?
I mean, I know what an Astra van, but I did look up 93 Astra van just to dial it in. Now let's look up Ford Fiesta, which is a very small car. I mean, you wouldn't mistake them.
I don't know, but you're in a dark area. I doubt there's a ton of street lights.
A Ford Fiesta is so small. And yes, it almost is kind of a tiny version, but
Of
I'm
an
talking
Astra
about
van.
like miniature. It doesn't even have a back door.
Yeah, but would you notice that if you were just out?
You would notice the fact that it's like
you would notice.
half the length
Okay,
of an Astra
Would
van.
I notice?
Yes.
See, I question you. I would see red. I would see orange.
No, I mean, no. There's literally an Astro is almost half the size of.
No,
Or
the
no,
Fiesta.
the Fiesta is almost half the size of an Astro. That's significant. And while the shape is similar, I just don't, even at night, like I don't understand how you would mistaken that. So either someone there's just, somebody called it something wrong, or somebody, just made a mistake, or there's actually two different cars involved.
So we know the Ford Fiesta was connected to what happened to Paul. The discussion we're having lends itself to figuring out whether or not it was just two perpetrators, the Ford Fiesta occupants, or possibly more.
So what almost kind of makes sense too, though, is the ability to wait at the phone box without any worry because you make another call to somebody that's in the area or maybe closer. I don't know. This is all very close. Like, I don't know why you would need to, but you make a call to somebody else who's going to actually do.
Well, the couple said the guy wasn't making a call. He literally was just standing in the phone box, and his behavior indicated that he didn't want anybody to
Well, maybe he's waiting.
See him.
He's waiting for the call back.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah, he's waiting. So
we're confident he and the driver of the Ford Fiesta are involved.
Yes.
The question is whether or not is it just them, or are there other assailants driving the Astra
But after
van?
Paul Logan calls them back at the phone box, they then make a call to somebody who's driving an Astro to go and meet at this place.
And it could be that the Astro van is completely unconnected, but perhaps the occupants or the owner of the van saw something in the vicinity that night. So police were very interested in who could have been in the Astro van.
And who saw an Astro van around that area?
Just the public.
And it was just around there. They didn't see it like parked at the house or anything?
Not at the house, no.
Well, and then in a Fiesta, I mean, it's so small that, and like you could not even notice that driving around, or it's parked in a place you're not going to see it, and the Astro van just happened to be in the area.
Do you find the leather jackets compelling? Like 1993?
They're hooligans.
Like, I really like a leather jacket, but I feel like not many people. You have to be of a certain...
They sound like English hooligans, like soccer hooligans.
Yeah.
Like they've got their
gang
little
members.
gangs and the Green Street hooligans.
Yeah. Now, during the investigation, Northumbria police discovered that Paul's car had been vandalized 3 times during the weeks leading up to his murder. One of the times, the vandal scratched the words, "No legs," into the roof of the car. Now, "no legs" as a phrase usually means that something lacks support or is unlikely to succeed, essentially implying that it cannot stand on its own due to the lack of a foundation, similar to how a person with no legs couldn't walk. It's a figurative piece of language to describe an idea, plan, or argument that is weak or unlikely to last.
And this was
scratched into the roof of his car.
Into his car.
Uh-huh. Now, later we're going to discuss that people in the community say that there could be drug ties between Paul and some drug dealers. And
he's
the only
30?
Yeah. The only thing I can think of, no, he was 25 at the time.
Oh, okay.
The only thing I can think of is like he had an argument for why he shouldn't have to pay them back or why he should get more time. And this leather jacket wearing British hooligan was like, "Your argument has no legs, mate. Give me my £100 now, or I'm going to get ya." And then he scratches "no legs" into the roof of his car just to like send the message home, mate.
I feel like that's a strange way to send the message. There's a lot more creative things I think a Brit could come up with to scratch into the roof of a car.
Like breaking his legs.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that was like, pay me or you're going to have no legs.
Now, what if the vandal got the phrase wrong and meant to scratch legless, which apparently is British slang? And as a British slang term, legless is used to describe someone who's extremely drunk. So what if it just like started out as some drunken pub altercation? Well, that's not British at all. That's like...
It was
Southern.
Kind of cross Southern with.
Yeah. And then it just like escalated from there.
Sure. I mean, there's also the fact that, vandalism happens without any reason at all.
But 3 times? Your car is vandalized 3 different times?
So the other times, what?
It didn't give.
It didn't give.
No.
Just, it was vandalized.
Yeah.
It's
probably
so
a good
3 times.
keying.
It sounds
involved.
like, and this was 5 years before?
No, in the weeks.
Started? Oh, 5
weeks leading up.
For some reason, I thought you said he was 30. And so when you said he was 25, I was like,
well, if
wait,
I did, he's
back?
25. He's not 30.
My bad. So in the weeks leading up, his car gets vandalized 3 times.
Thrice.
He is married, or he has a partner.
They weren't married, but they have
right?
2 kids.
To me, it does sound somewhat feminine. Like it sounds like woman's rage.
Yeah, because Carrie
vandalizing the
Underwood
car.
has that one song before he cheats where she like in the video takes a bat to his car.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean,
what makes everybody think that that's what a woman would do.
Well, I can hop on X right now and find like my feed will be full, have at least 3 videos of some woman going insane on.
But how do you then
kind of weird right now. So.
how do you take the leap from a female vandalizing his car to he's being beaten to death at the Blue House Farm?
She's the sister of the leader of Green Street Hooligans.
So you think he could have been having an affair?
Yeah.
And then she took to his car, was bragging about it, like Sunday dinner.
No legs sounds like.
And then his brother stepped in.
A woman would say to him, it's a knee in the balls, It's like saying,
maybe she was just confused. Instead of saying, you have no balls. She's like, no legs.
Well, maybe it's not. I mean, no balls is kind of an American thing, I think. British get creative with it. And
no legs.
But it could be, like attacking him in a pride sense. Like you're not going to do shit with your life. You are a Chinese food deliverer. You ain't shit without me.
Well, this is the next line of my script. Legless can also mean going nowhere.
It just, I imagine a woman doing that much more than a man. That phrase. I think a man, it
dickless.
It'd be something way more. Or, you're fucking dead.
And then he was.
Maybe a little more to the point.
And then he was.
Yeah, that's where my mind goes.
Well,
And it's the vandalism, especially the 3 times so quick. That's somebody stalking him. And if it's drug related, I mean, sure. Yeah, that could happen. I think a drug dealer would be much more like in person. They're waiting for him at his car and they rough him up a bit. And then if he still doesn't pay, they break his leg the next time. I think they would be a little bit more, unless there's a woman drug dealer.
Or just a woman in his life who was related to a drug dealer.
But
I
to
do
take
think
it
there's
as
something.
far as murder, that could be a love affair gone wrong.
Well, Paul's family would tell investigators that Paul was well liked, but that was not the sentiment that officers got from others in the community. There was this general notion that grudges were being held against Paul, but what those grudges were, if police knew, they never revealed any specifics to the public. Now, officials concluded that Paul most likely was targeted, and the entire attack had been meticulously planned. They believed that at least 2 individuals, if not more, would have been needed to carry out the plot. It was theorized that the attackers either waited near the Blue House Farm for Paul to drive up the drive, then they closed the gate, knowing he would have to get out of the car to open it on his way back to the restaurant, and that was when they attacked. But I also think they could have easily just watched and then followed Paul from the restaurant since the phone box was so close. Then they closed the gate behind him. There they waited to attack him.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And I could see, I mean, obviously there's 2 people involved.
Yes.
Because there's 2
leather
people.
jacket and second leather jacket.
Yeah. I'm trying to
Green
think
Street
of,
hooligan number 1.
Yeah.
Green Street hooligan number 2.
Yeah. I also think like the
Straight youth.
soccer pro, I forget his name. He used to be a soccer pro, I think. Maybe not, but
Beckham.
he's a big like bald dude in all like British movies.
He was
he has a scar on his face. I feel like he's
the
in
soccer
Green Street
movie
Hooligans.
that has Amanda Bynes in it.
She's the man.
Yeah.
He's the coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just imagining a guy like him is like it's him and his brother. But so yeah, you could definitely have them just follow. That makes sense.
They can see him drive down the road.
But it also, like, you could also have another person or 2 other people. They're like, hey, we're going to send him here. You guys just go there, wait.
In an Astro.
He'll be there in an Astro van. And so that could account for a second car. But the whole, like, the van was in the area, that's pretty loose.
Yeah.
And the Fiesta is so small. They could easily park in a place where you're not going to see it. You'd have to see it driving. And I'm sure there's a ton of, it's a tiny car. And I feel like all my exposure to England comes from media, movies and shows, and a little bit from a buddy of mine, because he grew up in England and is from England. But outside of that, I don't know. But I just imagine all of them drive tiny cars. I'm pretty sure that's a thing there. So you probably wouldn't even. An Astro van would stick out to somebody because it's big.
Any which way. It's actually either way, but he hates when I say any which way.
She knows how I feel about that.
Now, to this day,
it's
no
dismissive.
one, which I don't mean it to be, but it either way ties to what I said, and you had a whole little thing. So to this day, no one has been tried for the crime. Rumors have abounded about drugs and possible drug debts, but that's all they have ever been. Just rumors.
Jeez.
As of 1997, 10 individuals have been arrested on suspicion, but all of them were ultimately released. In England, being arrested on suspicion means that a police officer has reasonable grounds to suspect that you are involved in a crime and that your arrest is necessary. The police can arrest you anywhere at any time, including at home, work, or on the street. A warrant, like that which is necessary here in the United States, is not necessary there. Officers must have facts or information that would lead an objective observer to believe that you may have committed the crime. The arresting officer's mind must be the one to have the reasonable suspicion. After someone is arrested, they are taken to a police station, questioned, and held in custody. From there, they may be released or charged with a crime. The police can hold you up to 24 hours before they must charge you or release you. If you are suspected of a serious crime, such as murder, the police can apply to hold you for a longer period of time, between 36 or 96 hours.
That's not a thing in the States, right?
No.
They have 24 hours. They can't just get you for whatever.
No, it's either a police officer sees you've committed a crime and you get arrested, or a warrant is filed for your arrest. You can't just arrest on suspicion, which apparently is what you can do there. And
then once they arrest you with the warrant, don't they only have 24 hours with you until they have to actually charge you with something, right?
Oh, if you're getting arrested, you're getting charged in the United States, because that's what the entire process is.
What's this whole thing on shows when I see them say, well, we can only hold them for 24 hours?
You can be held on certain
hours,
things.
Okay.
But these people were arrested.
I'm just curious.
On suspicion.
You explained how it works there. I was curious how it works here.
Anyway, that's my British legal lesson from a layperson.
There we go. Maybe we'll get
Happy Christmas to you.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, Harry. Now, in 1999, a man named Keith Siddick went to prison for a bomb attack on Paul's father's van. So he has always kind of just like been connected as a possible person of interest for Paul's attack.
Does he, like, any background on him, who he is?
No, nope. I think actually in one resource it like alluded he was connected to like crime families. which I do. I never give my opinion on our podcast, like ever, unless it's like an extended episode, because I try just to tell stories. But I think Paul Logan's family knows a whole lot more, and they're not willing to say because it would reveal what that family's been doing. But if your son is murdered like that, and the patriarch of the family has his van bombed, like that family's probably into some stuff.
But the van's bombed 6 years later?
I don't give you the amount.
Oh, I thought you said
1999.
99.
Ooh, look at your maths. And that's how they say it in England.
And I'm actually
Your
tracking
maths.
some your maths. They pluralize it.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's crazy Brits.
They're colorful. They like to make the English language colorful. That's crazy. So 6 years later, he has his dad has his van bombed. It could be completely not related, but could also point to what you said, that
the family
maybe is just kind of tied into a little bit of a shadier side of society. And I think it does, everything you said, like I said before, kind of sounds like it could be tied to whether it's an affair with somebody that is like the sister of a high up person, I don't know, a wife maybe, who knows. Sister kind of makes more sense. A wife would be like...
His affinity for The Sopranos is speaking right now.
You can have there's no vandalism. It's just murder. But a sister, the sister loses her mind because she fell in love and he's not willing to leave his wife. And the dad knows the family, and who knows? It could be a whole thing like that, which kind of sounds like it.
I just think they probably weren't incredibly forthcoming.
Yeah.
And that's why it remains unsolved.
Well, and there's something to be said to crime families kind of know how to murder and get away with it. They do it a lot. And
personally, I don't know.
Well, I mean, just history of them, which that's going to be my first episode. We talk about me doing an episode.
Yeah,
all the time.
He's going to write one. We're going to switch roles.
And it is going to be about a crime family here in the States. Anyway, I don't know.
My dad used to cut the grass of a Colorado crime family.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
He would get paid during the summer to cut their grass. I wish I could remember their name. But then again, I also don't want to remember their name to put on our podcast.
Let's call it out. Although we could do a story about him one time. I feel like he's told me that.
He has.
I think he has a book about him.
He gave you the book.
I feel like he gave me a book about them.
It's okay. He doesn't listen. So why don't you listen, Dad? Jeez.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what a podcast is.
He wouldn't be able to figure it out.
Now, as of the 30-year anniversary, which would have been last year, right, 2024, the case remains unsolved. Are those maths right? 1993? Okay. Investigators have been transparent about the fact that unless someone comes forward with new information, there most likely won't be much progress in the case. But they say since allegiances can shift over time, they remain hopeful. So yay, Northumbria police.
Wait, they say because allegiances can shift?
They're expecting like leather jacket number 2 to come forward and be like, let me tell you what happened to a guy named Paul Logan 32 years ago.
Just personal opinion, but I feel like that phrase alone says this is crime family. And shit happens, and sometimes we'll get a tip out, or we'll get something out of somebody that wants a little less jail time. To be like, hey, remember that Paul Logan guy?
I'll tell you something about it. Yeah.
It's crime family for sure.
I think something's amiss.
Well, cool. Our first mafia podcast.
That we don't know is actually mafia. Christmas is supposed to be the happiest time of year. But on the eve of Christmas Eve, 1993, Paul Logan fell victim to a horrible plot, leaving his 2 young children orphaned and with no justice to be had. Perhaps the best we can hope for is that the perpetrators of this awful plot find themselves, in the vein of A Christmas Carol, visited by a ghost of Christmas past every year. But this ghost, instead of being a strange, flickering entity who appears young and old at the same time, actually drives a cream-colored Pugo and carries with him a takeaway bag full of savory barbecue spare ribs and chow mein, ready to haunt each individual responsible for the death of Paul Logan, so that the peace that comes with the Christmas holiday will forever be out of their reach.
You sure that's how you say it, Pugo?
I have no idea. And I put it in like a thing to tell me how to say it. And it gave me a very French. Puget? I don't know. Pugot? Did you? I don't know.
It all sounds stupid to me, so whatever, however you say it.
I
it
said
sounds
Pugo.
like a dumb tiny car. So.
I think it was. I'm dumb.
A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lank, his fortune seemed his lot. We got him to a drifted bank, and then we got up soft.